everybody. Thanks once again for tuning into the State Champs Podcast Network. This is the weekly Preps podcast. Every week we're going to bring you something different. We'll have different voices, different opinions, different subjects each and every week, but we want you tuning in, and you can be prepared to get those on Wednesdays. Am I right, Jeff?
Yes. We will have podcasts every Wednesday, all football season long, and once basketball season picks up, we'll pick up from there. So
let's get the introductions out of the way. We got a full room here. My name is Lorne Plant, executive producer of State Champs and Extra Point and State Champs Scoreboard. I kind of host those shows as well. And who is the man to my left?
Tom Markowski, who's been doing this for, I was counting the years. This will be my 20th year on the radio this fall. And next year, God willing, if I make it, that'll be my 40th year, completion of a 40th year covering high schools.
Well,
how old are you, Jeff?
I'm 27.
Okay.
So I haven't been on the radio for 20 years, I can tell you that much.
Right.
Don't you have a radio broadcast in your backyard that you practice for this?
I don't, but I should get one, shouldn't I?
Yes.
But
so what would you say your title is with State Champs?
Besides do everything.
I would say multimedia journalist.
Right.
Social media, anything.
There you go.
So just do a little bit of everything.
Good deal.
And I'm Jonathan Kidd, senior producer and editor of State Champs. Been going on my 15th year now.
That's right.
Me and LP have done every single episode in our 15 years of covering on State Champs.
That's right. We just can't get away from each other.
We should do some rebroadcast of those, just,
well, we plan on that.
Air them.
We've got
to see what we looked like and what we were doing.
Oh, my God.
We do our SC
hairstyles
Locker videos.
alone.
Right. We have our SC Locker videos, and we're going to be running out the very first State Champs episode here in a couple of days.
Yeah, and not to get off on a tangent here because we have very important news that we're doing today, but we do have the State Champs Locker, which we do plan on running most likely in the summer, where we're going to kind of go back and look at some old stories and some old moments. We had tremendous success with our top 25 and 25 running back show, so we can do more lists on maybe great games throughout State Champs history, things of that nature. Obviously, we want to get the fans involved, so we got a lot of good stuff coming ahead. But today, we are here to announce the preseason top 10 for our 2017 Hungry Howie's Mr. Football race. So all the gentlemen here are here to weigh in on our top 10 candidates, and we'll just kind of go through the list. Everybody can kind of weigh in on why these guys have a chance at being named Mr. Football for 2017. And, of course, we'll have guys fall in, fall out throughout the year, but these are the guys who we have to start the year. And it's always tough kind of picking that top 10. There are certain guys who we know are going to be on the list no matter what because we saw what they did last year. Let's go with some quarterbacks to start this, and
that's a long list of quarterbacks.
It is. We got a lot of quarterbacks here on the preseason list, and watching Divine Child play last year and what Theo Day did for them. He's a big kid, 6'5", basically 200 pounds, just recently committed to Michigan State.
Yep.
And so he plans on having a big year, and we plan on him having a big year, and that's why he's on this list.
No, I had a chance to see him against Ellen Park last year in the regional final. Obviously, they went on to the semis and lost to St. Mary's, but he put on a show. And what I was really impressed with, and I've heard a lot about Theo Day before that game, and how his arm strength, he throws well, all that stuff. His running ability really impressed me, and I'm not just talking, draw plays for the quarterback specifically in their spread offense. I'm talking ad lib, where he eludes the tacklers in the backfield and makes a big play out of a bad play. A heady kid.
You know what was cool last year? And again, we're just having fun here. We're just kind of getting our list together. So we got a lot of voices in the room, so we want to make sure we don't talk over each other. But it was really cool looking at the highlights because they're doing all that construction at Divine Child. So you've got all this construction in the background as you look at highlights, and you can watch them on our State Champs YouTube page. But this guy really did impress for a team, Divine Child, that we just haven't talked about a whole lot for the last 15 years.
Well, because they get overshadowed by the other teams in the Catholic League. They don't play in the Central Division. But for what it's worth, they're good enough right now to play in the Central Division. It's just too bad they don't, for my selfishness.
Now, Tom, do you feel like this is one of Divine Child's best teams in the last 10 years? Remember back when Forstat was the quarterback in the early 2000s?
Yeah, I think this is one. Back in the day, in the 80s and even early 90s, they were really good. In the 70s, you want to go back there, and into the 60s, actually, Divine Child was very good. But they've been kind of off the radar. They might win a playoff game, maybe two. Some year I remember they upset Allen Park on a real wicked Friday night game about 3 or 4 years back. But this is a strong team. I think they're a sleeper to get to Ford Field in Division III. Now, we all know how strong Division III is, and it'll take some really effort on their part. They're hurt by numbers. They only have about 40 on varsity. But I don't know. They're really good. They got a lot of good players back from last year, and they're senior heavy here.
Yeah, they really do. And this is, like you just said, they're senior heavy, and this is kind of the year they've been building towards. When you look at Theo Day, what we've seen is just constant progression in him as a quarterback and a leader and a playmaker. And I think that's why he's a part of this list, because he does all three of those things really well. I got a chance to see him play as a sophomore at Detroit Catholic Central, and then watching him go from his sophomore year to his junior year, he made huge strides, and it's I'd be surprised if he doesn't make even bigger strides now that he's a senior and playing on a team that has high expectations for the first time in a while.
Sure.
Yeah, and
it's different too when you mention that expectations. There weren't many expectations last year for Divine Child. Yeah. It's easier to play a high school game if you don't. There isn't that pressure to succeed. This year, everybody's pointing to Divine Child.
Yeah.
To have
absolutely.
a good season. If they don't win a district title, if they don't win a regional title, I think people are going to say, what happened?
Right. And I think that's like we said, they build towards something, and if you don't accomplish what you've built towards, it comes off as a disappointment.
Sure.
Yeah. He was recently bumped to a 4-star. He's got the recruiting part in the back pocket now. We've seen over the years that the guys who get it done in the summer, they don't have to worry about it in the senior and answer those questions and all that. They seem to be a lot more relaxed.
Yeah, and I think we talked about the pressure that you have of achieving those goals as a team. Not having to worry about achieving your goal of playing in college and thinking about which college scouts are watching you. I think that's a little bit less stress that's on you. So that's one less thing that's on a guy like Theo Day's mind.
Definitely a front runner. I don't know if we have a favorite, but he is definitely, I think, in my mind, one of the front runners.
I would agree with that.
It's pretty wide open. Let's go to another quarterback and another guy we're expecting a big year from. He's a big guy from Muskegon, Ladarius Jefferson, the quarterback who recently has made a verbal to Central Florida.
Maybe the best running back at that position, if you can call a quarterback a running back, because he's
physical,
huge. But he's got a good arm. He fits that offense really well.
Right. He might be my favorite player to watch off of this list when you just look at everything he can do and his intangibles. He like Tom said, he's a big guy, but he has a rocket for an arm, and he's one of those quarterbacks that, when he gets 15 yards downfield, he's not going to slide. He'll lower that shoulder and, get those extra 3 or 4 yards. He can do it all from the quarterback position, and he learned a lot last year watching another Mr. Football candidate, Final Four guy in Khalil Pimpleton.
Jefferson just falls in line with those quarterbacks in the past at Muskegon. Thrower.
Oh, yeah.
Pimpleton. So he's going to just pick up right where he was left off. And he had a good state final performance.
Yeah. And that experience is going to help a lot this year. Yeah. Being able to, not a whole lot of teams can bring their quarterback who played in the state final the next year. And
he kind of won that job from Pimpleton, too, as the year went on. I think, maybe Shane Fairfield was thinking ahead, thinking that Jefferson would be playing this year and Pimpleton would be doing different things in college. So I don't know. I thought he slowly moved into that starting role and took it.
Yeah, and it helps because Pimpleton was so versatile.
Sure.
Being able to play in the slot, play in the backfield. He could do everything. So that helped.
People probably were like, he kind of like popped onto the radar, and that's because as a sophomore, he was in Mississippi. And then he came back here for his junior year last year, shared duties because Khalil was clearly the guy going in. Right. And, they did have a nice yin and yang going, thunder and lightning.
Right.
It's like pick your poison. One guy's going to just run right by you, and the other guy's going to punish you as you make connection with it. Are you surprised Central Florida? And he committed as quick?
Talking to Shane, he said that the Big Ten schools were recruiting him as a linebacker. And he said,
I didn't know that.
No to that.
Right. But you look at it.
You think about it. Oh, man, I'm going to play linebacker now?
Yeah.
I just played quarterback for my high school career.
Yeah,
and you look at the system he's going to play in at Central Florida. Scott Frost is a former Oregon offensive coordinator. So they'll play in that up-tempo, be able to throw the ball all over the field. It kind of fits what he's going to want to do, being able to run and throw. And, he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot.
You know, we love to have, especially in the early goings, we got to give that love to the guys in the trenches, the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen. And obviously, this guy's a no-brainer out of Traverse City West. Ryan Hayes, does John's heart proud that he's going to be able to go to Michigan and try to continue that tradition, because really that's where Michigan is building their reputation now, is on the lines. The trenches are as good as anybody in the country. So what a great place that he's already committed. He did that in May. 6'7", 250, might even be bigger than that now. This is a guy who, plays for a very good tradition-rich program in Traverse City West, and here he is, going to make a difference for them if they're going to win. He's got to keep the quarterback and the running backs make those holes.
Well, he's a versatile player too, because he plays defensive end. He's their punter. Coach Tim Worth said he's their best long snapper, but he can't snap to himself. And he's actually playing tight end this year, and the reason he has such good hands. He's a starter on the basketball team. He throws an 85-mile-an-hour fastball. This kid's a real good athlete, and he'd like to play tight end at the next level. But when you look at that frame, Michigan's going to, put pounds on him and put an offensive tackle label on him. And there's no big deal with that. He probably can see that for himself. But as far as one of the most athletic linemen in the state, I think Ryan is one of them.
Yeah, there's no question. He's a guy, like you said, he's got great hands, and he's a guy that I think is a game changer because of his size. Not only can he catch passes, but if there's a 3rd and 1, they want to run it to the right side or the left side, wherever he's lined up, you can go right behind a tight end playing next to a tackle and really kind of get those short yardage situations. So he can do a lot of different things, even though he's just playing in line, whether it's at tight end or
unlike Eric Ebron.
And I won't be shocked. Like he could go to Michigan as a tight end, because as of right now, Michigan does not have a tight end in the 2018 class as of right now, and you're going to have seniors leaving Michigan. So Harbaugh likes those 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" tight ends. So it won't be a shock. Like
big targets.
Right. I have not seen him live, but I'm hoping to see him this year against Central in the 3rd week. But you're right, John. And Harbaugh does like that tight end.
Yeah,
and maybe he does fit that mold for them.
And besides being All-State football, of course, he was the Big North Conference Basketball Player of the Year last year. And he was the Big North Conference Baseball Pitcher of the Year. So here's a guy, Randy Johnson, except 3 times as big.
His daddy played offensive line for Central Michigan. His mom played basketball at Central Michigan. His older brother played at Pitt football.
So that's not bad lineage. Not bad.
All through the bloodlines.
Right.
Yeah, so no doubt about it.
I think he'll be on our list for a while.
Yeah,
I do too.
I hope so.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of votes he gets.
Yeah, because it's important, I think, to try and recognize these guys, because they can't make stats impacts, but as tight end, he can.
He might. Defensive end, he might come up.
And at defensive end, with the way he absolutely defensively. So let's move on. Let's go to another quarterback. We'll stay on the west side. Out of Rockford, Jason Whitaker.
Drop back passer, that's the first thing I think of, and that's what Rockford uses, Ralph Munker uses their quarterbacks as. He's had other good drop back passers going to Northwestern. I'm planning on seeing him on the first week against Saline. That's Thursday.
Be good.
Yep. That's a pretty good competition there to open up the season for that kid. So, I'm anxious. He doesn't have, what might hurt him is there's not a lot of experience coming back on that team. They lose a lot of their running backs. In fact, all of them. He does have pass catchers, though. He does have people he can throw to. And Ralph was telling me, I said, well, your kid's a senior now. You want to throw the ball more? He says, only if we can protect him.
Right.
So there's a question for Rockford, is their offensive line. Yeah,
that's a big need for Rockford to be able to protect Whitaker, because he's going to be their best player. There's no question. But the thing for Whitaker that helps is he is your pro-style quarterback, but he is mobile. He can make plays with his feet. I think that's part of the reason why he's going to Northwestern. They play in that spread offense in Evanston. Right. And I think that's going to help his case. And being able to make plays, while this is a young team, he's going to extend plays, kind of make the players around him better.
Yeah, there's only 20 seniors on that Rockford team. One of the biggest schools in the state, and that's all they have. It's just one of those strange classes. But he says, Ralph was saying they got quality, it's just not quantity.
Right.
And do you feel like he is the best quarterback to come out of Rockford in a while?
Yeah, I can't remember the kid's name now, but they had one go to Illinois, another obviously Big Ten school. We'll see. His numbers, he got banged up a little bit last year. They didn't have great numbers. He had 6 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions, and only 1,100 yards passing, but he did not play the whole season.
And didn't you say, because this is kind of new news, that there was a recent car accident with
Yeah,
them?
they had one of their football players. I don't have the young man's name on me, but I did converse through emails with Ralph Munger. They had a car accident August 12th. And that's usually their inter-squad game that Saturday. So there was 3 individuals, 3 football players in the car. 2 were not hurt. 1 was seriously hurt and hospitalized. Ralph was saying he was getting better, though, so that's the good news.
Well, he's a big kid, 6'5". Again, he's a hard commit to Northwestern now. He was one of the best at the opening, that camp that they do in April. He's 3-star now, but is one of these guys that, again, is with a great program.
Right, and he's got to stay injury-free. I mean, he got
Yes.
banged up last year.
And
he can't afford to get injured.
Right, and especially like you were saying, because it's such a young team.
Right.
You can't afford to lose that quarterback because 6 wins to get into the playoffs. You need that quarterback there for the whole time, so they need to protect him, and especially on a young team.
And they play with Lowell second week.
Yep, and that's a
Those
big
are
game.
2 non-conference games against 2 teams in my top 10.
Right.
What a great segue.
Yeah.
Because that's where we go. We go to Lowell next, and the other quarterback, David Cruz, who really came out on fire last year.
You had a chance to see him, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw him in the semifinals against Walled Lake Western last year, and Walled Lake Western got out to a big lead in the first half, and if it wasn't for David Cruz, that game would have been a blowout. He very nearly brought Lowell all the way back and very nearly beat Walled Lake Western. He's a really good dual threat quarterback. He can make a lot of plays with his feet. He's got a good enough arm to make the throws downfield. He's a guy who I think is going to have a lot of support from that Lowell backing, in our online fan voting.
I thought you were going to talk about just on the field because they got quite a few starters back.
Right. Well, on both sides. So you're going to see he's good enough to stay in the race, and it's an experienced team. I think we have him as one of our top teams. And
Number 2.
There you go.
That tells you what you need to know. Lowell is the real deal because of the players they have returning from a team that was already in the semifinals, and that Lowell community is going to support him in our online fan vote.
And he fits that mold of that offense.
Yeah.
No doubt. That's why
if
he
you
puts
go
up
back,
good numbers.
If you go back in our time, Mark Catlin, and Gabe Dean,
Right.
and he's a mobile quarterback, so he's going to be going, throwing passes.
They like to feature their quarterback when they can, and he is that
They
type of
definitely can.
athlete that they can feature him.
And like the Deans, he's a wrestler too. Lowell's a big
I
wrestling
don't think
pro-
you get out of that town unless
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
competing in wrestling.
There's no doubt about it. But, again, he's entrenched. He's been there. He gets it. He knows it. There is no question about it that Noel Dean wants to take this team. I mean, they lost so crushingly to King a few years ago. They had to get over that Western hurdle. That was really hard last year. We'll see how Western does this year.
Right.
This is a great opportunity for them. They Cruz beat Rockford last year.
Yep.
Now, again, Rockford was
Correct.
dealing with that weird sickness that they had, and again seemed to be a little banged up. But East Grand Rapids is not what they once were. So I think that
They'll be better.
They'll be better. Yeah. But I mean, I think it's Lowell.
Harrison opens up with East Grand Rapids. I'm interested in that game.
So it's Lowell's turn, and we'll see what Cruz. I'm not sure from a recruiting perspective.
It really
where he
isn't a
stands
big
right
time
now.
recruit.
Yeah.
No, not that I'm aware of, at least.
No.
But
He could
Lawrence
be a-
Tech could use a
He
quarterback.
could. There you go. I was going to say D2, but maybe Jeff could steal that D2 prospect out of there.
Yeah, let's hope he gets over there and checks him out.
right, going back to what you were saying, Lowell's been so close the last couple of years. Not to make a bold prediction or anything, but I think this is the team that does, and I think they've got the quarterback that can do it. Like John was saying, he fits that system. Gabe Dean is a guy I saw quite a bit, and he fits that dual threat style very well. And I think
When was the last time they won it? You remember?
Boy, it's probably been
beat
about
Inkster.
6-7 years
Inkster.
ago.
That was 09.
Yeah, Gardner and Inkster.
It's been a
Devin
while.
Gardner,
You
yeah.
get so accustomed to seeing Lowell win a
Right.
championship.
I mean, they lost to let's see,
lost to
Lowell and
Rice.
Muskegon. They lost to Rice, and then Muskegon's moving up and down 2 and 3. I think they lost to Muskegon. Then
They
I
lost
guess,
to Harrison in 10.
Right. That was Harrison's last time.
Harrison in 10 and Rice in 11, and then they won it in 2009 over Inkster.
Wow. So let's keep moving. We'll finish up our quarterbacks that we have here as we talk about the preseason top 10 for the Hungry Howie's Mr. Football race. And out of Utica Eisenhower, Max Whitwer, who really came on last year.
Yeah, he did.
You know, last year I thought I had a chance to see him against Cass Tech, and he looked really good there. But I always thought that he was going to end up as a receiver, and he still might.
Yeah, he's a
at the
dual
next level.
threat.
Because he's a big kid who can run. He does have a good arm, and they do run that type of offense where they feature a quarterback running and throwing the ball. So we'll see. I mean, there's no question about the competition they play against. They open up with Oak Park, which I think that's such a kind of a weird thing. You know,
Right.
You got an Oak Park team they're one of their best teams. I just think it's different because I don't ever remember Oak Park playing Eisenhower. But
The first thing that comes to mind when I think of Max Whitwer is he's just a winner.
Yeah.
I think he has 2 losses in his career, and both are in the playoffs. And last year was in heartbreaking fashion to Cass Tech. This kid just wins. You know, he'll put up big numbers, but what goes beyond the numbers is he's a leader. He leads that team. He stepped in midway through his sophomore year and, you know, really helped Eisenhower kind of turn their season around a little bit and kind of was a difference maker then. Obviously more experience last year. Led Eisenhower all the way to the semifinals.
Yep.
Yeah, because they won district and regional championships.
And now this year, you know, that it's that next step that maybe they can take it with that quarterback in his 3rd year of being a starting quarterback.
And also, too, having that experience is going to help them going all the way to semifinals. Now they know how to take the next step.
Yep.
Now we'll see how they are in their wide receiving core because his top guy last year, Jake Preventure, is gone.
yeah, he was their running back, and they threw him out of the backfield. I was just thinking of that too, John, because that takes a lot of heat off of Whitwer if they can find somebody that can take away some of the heat from the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost a little bit like with Whitaker is you got to make sure that supporting cast kind of emerges at some point early in the season.
6'2" kid. Might project to be a MAC guy. He's got an Eastern offer right now
Right, yep.
on the table, and
that's not bad anymore now in the Eastern Michigan
exactly.
offer.
They've got several guys that I think they're building it right over there.
Chris
and
Creighton's
it's about
doing a
time.
really good job.
Yeah, there's no doubt about
Finally.
it. He had 19 touchdowns, more than 1,500 yards last year. 8 rushing TDs, was the county MVP.
Yeah.
I think Whitwer's due for a huge season. We had a lot of pressure to get him on the list last year.
Right, yeah.
If you remember, it was kind of like as we were moving in, it's like, boy, Whitwer's just tearing it up because Eisenhower was playing so well.
Right.
I mean, for those who do not know the competition, you talk about tough divisions in the state. The MAC Red year in, year out is brutal.
Yep.
I
Well,
mean,
within them, they get a break now and then because they play against the lesser teams in the MAC, like the white and sometimes the blue.
Some of those crossovers.
So, and you look at their schedule, almost like a Southeastern. I know I'm on a tangent here.
It's all right.
It's like the Southeastern Conference in college football. They'll play the tough games, but they have these weak sisters before they play a tough game. Meaning, if Eisenhower plays, let's say, Chippewa Valley, they'll play a Utica or somebody that's not in the red beforehand. I like the way they do their scheduling at MAC.
Well, the way you're right, because the way they have it this year, they got Oak Park, then Dakota, then Roseville.
Yeah, that's still a break, right?
Then they got Chip Valley.
Right, that's a tough one.
Then they go Romeo.
That's
not
easy.
Then they go
No,
Lance Cruz North.
That's a little break.
Then they go Sterling Heights Stevenson, who's getting better.
Right.
And then Warren Mott, who's always going to bring it.
Yeah, they are.
And then they end with Utica Ford, who can be
Right, that's
strong.
always
the rivalry game.
Right.
Yep.
So, so we'll see how things work out for Max Whitwer. Let's move to a guy who we originally was not going to have on our list. He was going to be in our kind of guys to watch because Kaylon Gervin we're leaving off the list right now for Cass Tech. Obviously one of the top recruits in the state, if not the top, but could start the season. Injuries. Does anybody have any updates on where that is?
I
know they keep it close to the chest.
When I saw them in practice, he was there. He was all suited up. They had him going through the pre-practice drills. It's just that when practice started, he was not out there. He had injured, I believe, a foot in a summer camp. They were just being precautionary. That kid's going to play. I mean, he's probably out there hitting now.
And again, but one more to Eisenhower too, and this is the things we always forget, and we talk about this in our top teams is, Eisenhower was right there. They almost beat Cass Tech.
It only took a miraculous catch by Peoples Jones.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think people realize just how tough of a road to the finals that Cass Tech had because they almost lost to Ike and they almost lost to Saline.
Exactly.
That was a really tough road for them.
Yeah. I mean,
Good point.
these are the things we forget so quickly when it was literally a one play away.
You talk about Saline. Just look at how tough they played Cass over the years.
They scored 41 points.
Yep.
I mean, it was again Donovan Peoples-Jones with the extra point, catching the conversion
Right.
to win.
Right.
Otherwise, and nobody could stop him.
No.
So otherwise, it was going to be him. So
Superman.
anyway, Jalen Reynolds. Right?
No, Jalen Franklin.
Jalen Franklin, excuse me. Jalen Reynolds, I love him. He's a great basketball
That's right.
player. Exactly. But Jalen Franklin, excuse me, out of Gibraltar Carlson, who is what we call an athlete.
Yep.
Does
Plays
so many
everywhere.
different things. We've got him on the list here early. Why?
Didn't he play quarterback mostly for them last year?
He played mostly quarterback last year. He played a lot of outside linebacker, and
From what I understand, they're going to move him around a little bit this year.
it seems that way. And he's going to return punts and kicks, and he's their all everything. He's a guy who's going to rack up the all-purpose yards, and he's going to do a lot of things on defense.
Kind of like a Julian Barrett. That's for Belleville.
Barnett. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, very similar, I would say. I think Barnett's more of a skill position player, whereas
A receiver, defensive back.
Yeah, whereas I think Franklin, going to Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken, he's going to be an outside linebacker.
Okay.
Might be able to transition to a safety spot.
Okay.
But his athleticism is going to allow him to play one of those two positions. But he, on the offensive side of the ball, he can throw it a little bit, but his biggest skill is running the ball, and he finds the holes just as well as just about anybody I've seen in this group. And he's going to be a guy that can really see the field. I don't know where I'm going.
That's okay.
Doesn't matter. This is John's alma mater.
Yes.
Oscar A. Carlson High School.
The cheer school.
The first time we've
I wonder
ever
what
had.
I wonder what the OA standard for.
Oscar
Stood for.
Oscar Arthur Carlson.
This is the first time we've had a Carlson kid in our Mr.
And
Football.
a downriver kid.
And
Yeah.
really a downriver kid at all. I don't think we've ever had
Not
it.
even in the Huron League.
We didn't have any Melvindale kids or any Roosevelt kids back in their heyday. No Ellen Park kids yet.
No.
Wow. So it's
a little surprising.
Yeah. I mean, it just shows you how hard it is to pick 10 guys.
I'm interested to see how Franklin does with Jack Jarmo now.
Oh, yeah. Correct.
That's right.
Under the helm now, because when
New
Jarmo
offense.
was at SMCC, he ran that tight T.
He did.
And you know what's going to happen. They're going to run that tight T to the tightest T. And I still talk to Kent Sikora, the former coach. He's still involved with Carlson at the school, and they went from the spread to the tight T. They're going to be.
Wow.
It's going to be Jalen Franklin, Jalen Franklin, Jalen Franklin.
So for
Are
those
they
of you-
going to use him at quarterback or
Yeah,
running?
using him at quarterback.
Right.
Ah.
Which means he's going to run. Which means if those who are familiar with Canton's offense, it's the same type
Sure.
of deal. It's one of these things. It's
deceptive.
It's hide the football.
Right.
You've got to, as cameramen, it's a nightmare for us to film highlights for it. We've got to focus on the guard. Wherever the guard goes, that's where the play is going to go. But it's one of those things that again. Canton has done so well, so effective. Jarmo had a lot of success at SMCC state championships, or at least state championship appearances during his reign up. I believe he did win one.
Yes,
yes, he
there.
did.
Yeah.
They did beat Ithaca.
Yeah.
That's right.
They ended the streak.
That's right.
I think they ended the
And-
70 games, I believe, is what Ithaca's winning streak was at.
69.
69?
Yeah.
So, and you got to imagine that Carlson typically has good football players.
Sure they do.
You know?
They've been in the playoffs before. and they've won.
Absolutely.
They haven't been in the playoffs in 8 years.
Right.
8 years.
09 was,
Look back at it.
the last time they made the playoffs. And, they've had teams that they think they're going to be good, then end up being 5-4, 4-5. They had some coaching, with Sikora in and out.
Right.
But a lot of people in the Downriver League that I've talked to, they believe Carlson is the favorite to win.
Oh.
You still got Allen Park there. You still got Wyandotte there. They think those are the top three. And a lot of people think that it could be Carlson's year, finally.
And this is the last year of Truman and Kennedy, right?
Yes.
After this, they will become one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and play out of Truman High School. So they'll be shutting down Kennedy.
And then Edsel Ford moves in.
Right.
Which I still believe they should have kept a team. They should have not added a team.
Yeah, I would like that too. But
For football purposes.
Edsel Ford fits well into that downriver.
I just think for scheduling reasons, we have talked in the past.
Gosh, ad nauseum.
How they do well in the regular season, but once they get into the playoffs, they play Allen Park or Wyandotte will play someone in the Downriver League in the districts, and then once they get into regionals, they get blown out by King or Temperance Bedford.
Once in a while, Wyandotte would get to the semis.
Yeah, they lost to Rice in the semis, I recall.
Yeah, but that's it.
Right. One thing that stands out to me about Franklin, and I think that this could be a difference for him in this contest, and we've done it the last couple of years, is the impact the players make on both sides of the ball.
Correct.
And I don't think we have a whole lot of true two-way players on this list. And Jalen Franklin's, I think that what he does on defense is really going to be an opportunity for him to separate himself from guys on this list.
Right, and let me tell you, recent history will tell you Mr. Football winners like dual threats.
Cody White.
Cody White. Mark Chapman was another guy who, those kind of guys, the guys who have the ball in their hands and have the opportunity to make plays are the ones that stand out in this competition.
Yep.
And that's what makes it hard for a guy like Ryan Hayes, but has all the opportunity for a guy like him. Let's go to the running backs. The only one who was in our list last year for a good chunk of the year, and that is the Davison running back, Tariq Reed.
Well, he earned his way on last year. He had such a marvelous junior year. In fact, I'm going over some of the stats for this year. Against Mount Pleasant last year, he had 309 yards on 19 carries. And now Mount Pleasant, I think he had 5 touchdowns that game too. Mount Pleasant's good every year. So he basically earned his way on. It's going to be interesting to see how well he does this year. He doesn't have McGrill, I believe his name was, the quarterback.
Brendan McGrill.
And he was a big part of that running team too. So, this is not obviously a strong year for the running backs there because we don't have that many here, but he's 15 pounds heavier. A problem with him as far as being recruited, he doesn't have blazing speed. Air Force Academy is interested in him as well as some Ivy League schools.
Columbia, Cornell,
Correct.
Morgan State.
Hey.
Those are good schools.
Hopefully
Those are
Lawrence
fine
Tech.
schools,
Lawrence Tech actually looked at him.
Lawrence Tech has talked with him.
Hey, why not? So I think he'll have a really good year. Is he going to have a great year? I don't know because a little bit of transition for that offense.
See, here's what I'm interested to see with Tariq Reed. And, I think I can speak for everybody in this room right now. Going into the 2016 season, none of us knew who Tariq Reed was.
We might have heard of him.
Right.
But nothing that would really be, that outstanding.
Right. Now everybody knows who Tariq Reed is.
He's got people are pointing at him.
11 guys on the opposite side of the ball are going to be looking right at him, looking to stop him.
Sure.
Defense are going to be game planning to stop him. How does he respond to that? And how does the offensive line respond to that
How
as
does
well?
Kyle Zimmerman, the head coach, respond to that?
Get a little bit more creative, getting him the ball in space
Correct.
and things like that. That's what I'm very interested to see because now, everybody in the state knows who Tariq Reed is. He's one of the best running backs that the state has to offer.
Sure.
How can they stop him and how can Davison?
How good is Davison?
I have them in my top 25. They're going to have trouble with Lapeer in their division. Lapeer lost a lot from last year, but they're a big school.
Right.
They should be good. They need to replace the quarterback, though. But you do have that horse in the backfield that you can rely on.
In our Mr. Football criteria, we have the level of competition. Nothing against the Saginaw Valley Association. We're going to get a good test of Tariq Reed next week against an OAA power in Southfield.
That is a good point, John. I do not think the Valley is what it once was, but they are in the toughest division of the Valley, if that means anything. They do play some good interdivision type of games within the Valley, but they don't play in the MAC Red. They don't play in the Catholic League, so.
Right. It's definitely something that when it comes down to decision time, it's something that we'll obviously have to delve in deeper to.
Sure.
And like you say, how does he perform in week one against a talented Southfield team?
Exactly.
It's going to be it'll be interesting to see it in week one right off the bat.
Yeah, and obviously, Midland is a program that is traditionally strong.
Yep.
So they'll, Lapeer obviously, since they've combined schools. I was out at RoboCon in July, filling some robotics duties, and the Lapeer football teams were out there, and they were just kind of working out, running around, and it's amazing how big that school is. So a lot of enrollment. So and they get Flint, and they've got Flint Powers Catholic to end the regular season. So they'll have some good names under the resume. We'll see how well the team does.
Flint Power's is a little bit smaller, but that's still a quality program.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thinking of Air Force, I think of Marcus Stevenson, right, out of Lake Orion, who went there, and kind of similar, maybe backs, explosive, and we saw what Stevenson did for Lake Orion, took them all the way to the state finals. So, we'll see what happens with Tariq Reed, but the only guy who is back on our list. Talking about quarterbacks, and I forgot we had one more, and that was Josh Xarna from Fenton.
He's kind of the statistic maker here. I mean,
Right.
he has 70. He's accounted for 75 touchdowns in his first 2 years. Just phenomenal. I don't know if he's a better runner or a better thrower.
Yeah, he's a guy that can do it all. Playing in the Flint Metro League,
That hurts.
That does
Competition.
Love
That's even less than what Davison plays.
hurt. Right, but you also look at it more from a style standpoint. Those teams like to spread it out and just let it fly.
Unless
yeah,
you're Holly.
Yeah.
That's very true.
No, but he's a dual threat.
Yes.
Got to the regionals last year.
Yep.
With
And-
Fenton.
Oh, he puts up extraordinary numbers.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how he said 75 touchdowns in his first 2 years. Is that passing or is that combined?
Combined.
Okay,
He's
combined.
accounted
Okay,
for.
I didn't know if that are we going to start looking into the MHSA record books and that kind of stuff.
We'd have to look. I don't know if he's gotten that far yet. We'll have to see.
It's the 4-year quarterbacks
Yeah.
that own those records. That's
Right.
why Fracassa is up there, and even the Ithaca
Coleman's,
guys, because
right.
they play every game every year. They go all the way to the finals every year.
Right.
So they're just machines in terms of stats.
Right. With Xarna, you look at this season going forward, I'd be very surprised if he falls off this list at some point, barring injury, obviously, because of the numbers that Tom talked about. He's going to put up some gaudy
As long
numbers.
as they keep winning.
Right. Yeah, that as
And
well.
they should be good this year.
Right.
They
So-
were 9-3 last year.
Right.
They won the Flint Metro's last 6 years.
You
They
look.
lost to Walled Lake Western, in a regional final.
Yeah, I think so.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, you look at our list, and at this point, it's hard to see any of these guys falling off the list because they're all very, very good players and very well accomplished players. But with the numbers that Josh has put up as a junior, I'd be surprised if he doesn't duplicate that as a senior.
I agree.
Well, the interesting thing this year, last year they lost their first 2 games, but that was Caledonia and Temperance Bedford, 2 obviously very strong programs in general. And then they ran through the Flint Metro before they lost to Western, Walled Lake Western, in the regional 61-21. This year they just go straight through the Flint Metro League, and then their final game on October 20th is Waterford Mott. Now, where Mott is at that point, we won't know.
Ask Chris Farr.
That's not Caledonia.
No. However, it's a good game to get them into the playoffs.
Oh, no doubt.
But they're still a strong Division II, right? They're
I
not
believe so.
dropping
Right.
as far as enrollment.
Right.
So he'll have his work cut out for him, no doubt about it.
That Waterford Mott game will probably have a ton of points scored. Mott has a Division I quarterback. We'll see what both sides have to offer in that game.
Yeah, and it could actually be very important for Mott.
Mott's
at
one
that
of
point in the
those
season.
5-4, 6-3 type teams.
Right.
Well, not knowing now in the Lakes Valley Conference.
That's true.
Right, the Lakes Valley,
high-
which
high
is
level of
which is
competition.
now what? What are the exact schools in the Lakes Valley?
Waterford,
Mostly, yeah.
Waterford Kettering, Waterford Mott,
Walled Lake
Lake,
schools.
yep, the Wall Lake schools, Lakeland, Milford.
2 South Line schools.
Yep, the South Lions schools are in that.
No, so
Interesting.
So.
It was going to be Pinckney, and then Pinckney bolted for the Southeastern Conference.
Right, because they're right along that I-23.
Yep.
They can head down Ann Arbor, and that probably makes more sense. All right, let's. We have digressed a little bit on this one. We appreciate you being here. We have one more name to round out our preseason top 10 Hungry Howie's Mr. Football candidates. No doubter, running back, University of Detroit Jesuit Elijah Collins.
I think he has a great chance to moving up on this list and getting votes. Aside from the fact that UAD Jesuit is like one of the big supporters, the fan base that they have.
They'll vote for him. No
But
doubt about
here's
it.
a guy that plays both ways. I've seen him return kicks. I think he's a kid that's such an athlete. I don't even know if he's touched the surface as far as being a football player because he was a basketball player.
Right.
And that happens sometimes. Where kids growing up, I want to play basketball, and all of a sudden, he's a football player. And Tristan Jackson comes to mind out of West Bloomfield, a basketball player kind of growing up. Comes late in his junior years, starts putting up ridiculous numbers and decides football's for him.
Or Drake Harris.
Drake Harris.
Yeah.
That's right.
Along the lines of Jackson, Michigan State chasing Elijah Collins
Yes, they
right
are.
now.
I know that they're a big fan of Elijah. But, Elijah Collins is one of those running backs. Like what Tom was saying, we knew he played football, but we just didn't know how serious it was until the start of last year. And he just went off last year. He is, he's a actually bigger running back because, he has that size. Basketball point guard size, which is a little bit big for a running back, but he's fast. He hits the hole hard. And, that
good receiver out of the backfield.
Yes, he
had
is.
19 catches last year.
Yep. And that UD Jesuit team is going to be experienced in a lot of places, and I think offensive line is going to be one of them, and that's going to be a big benefit for Collins.
Yeah, he's going to end up in the Big Ten for sure.
For sure.
Well,
didn't you predict that he was going to get 250 against Brother Rice in the first game?
I may have said that.
Well,
why not? I think UAD's going to be pretty good this year.
They're going to be good. They're going to be down in the AA division, but they still have a tough.
Yes.
They have the crossovers in the Central Division, so getting 6 is
Hey, they played Divine Child this year. I think that'll be a tough game.
Yeah,
And
strength of
Loyola.
schedule isn't going to be an issue for UAD in terms of this contest and
because
Elijah Collins.
they still play. They have Brother Rice. They have CC,
Wow, those are tough ones.
and then you got Loyola. We don't know how good Loyola is going to be this year without John Callahan.
Right,
under
they
the-
have athletes.
Yep.
At that opening in Cleveland, the Nike opening event, he ran a 4.66.40. So for a guy who's 6 feet 194, that's good speed. He was second in the running backs at that event.
Right.
So he's explosive. And you're right, that schedule alone is what's going to really give him points. Because again, part of our criteria, big game performance. He's going to have a lot of big games.
Yep.
Obviously, team performance is a part of it. And highly recruited is very low. It's last on our list. The vote is big.
Yep.
So I expect his vote to be large. In fact, if we want to have fun and kind of predict it, who are going to be the runaways when it comes to the fan vote in this thing? And again, we're challenging everyone listening as well.
But Lowell and UAD, to me, are some of the biggest supporters as far as athletes.
Yeah, the 8 other schools on our list are on notice.
You would hope the Fenton community is going to come out hard for Xarna because this is one of those once in a generation athletes from their school.
It'll be interesting to see how my alma mater does with the vote.
Yeah.
Not only that, but the downriver as a whole, they've
As
never
a community.
had. Yeah, some of those communities are very tight knit, and they'll vote for their own.
Sure.
And I think the downriver kind of fills that.
Right.
You would hope they would band together.
And you would think the other Catholic team, Divine Child, is going to want to support Theo Day hard and not let UAD blow them out of the water. So it'll be interesting. The vote should be going. If not, we're recording this on Friday, August 18th,
I believe
during the afternoon.
We're going to start the voting on Sunday.
Okay, so if it's up on the website before Sunday, have at it.
Right.
It's very possible it could start officially by the time the State Champs High School Football Preview airs, and Sunday at 9 a.m. It will be up.
It'll be interesting to see the numbers before a game is played.
Right. Yeah, last year we had a really good surge in the first week before the season started. We had some guys who really jumped ahead, and we kind of weren't really expecting it, but people love football.
So we want to tell you guys that we're going to continue these football conversations on the radio, and that is going to be our second season at 97.1 The Ticket. That starts so opening weekend. We're going from 10:30 to midnight now, so 90-minute show. That way we can allow the Tigers or Pistons or Red Wings or whatever they have to get finished. We've got 10 affiliates already locked in from across the state. We'll have that list on our website, statechampsnetwork.com. So if you are in one of those markets and you want to listen to the show, you can. Of course, it's going to be live on Facebook as well, and it's a real interactive show, so you get to see us talking and everything. Tom will be there, Jeff will be there, Scott Bernstein will be there. We should have some others, and it should be a real fun time, so make sure you tune in every Friday night. Of course, Extra Point, which is our statewide high school football show, starts up next Saturday, 10 a.m., Fox Sports Detroit, and State Champs, which is all sports, Sundays at 9 a.m. So we're going to be busy boys for the next 15 weeks. We hope you guys are ready for it.
That's exactly right.
Football.
Fun times.
We're ready to go. So thank you so much. We will have a podcast airing every Wednesday on the State Champs Podcast Network, and the Preps Podcast will be Wednesdays. We'll have the best of the Friday night radio show on Mondays, so you'll be able to check out exclusive highlights from that if you didn't get a chance to tune in. So check it out. We appreciate being here, and we will see you guys on the field.